Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the absolute worst childhoods in ancient history. You're going to travel back in time, not to a golden age of innocence, but to a world where growing up was less about carefree days and more about pure, unadulterated survival. Imagine, if you will, the cool, dusty air of a Roman villa, a place that seems grand and pristine. But you're not an adult admiring the mosaics. You're a child, and around you the sounds are hushed, because the concept of a healthy baby is a fragile, fleeting miracle. You're navigating a world where a simple cough could be a death sentence, where life is governed by a grim kind of lottery that you, as a tiny person, have no say in. You're a Roman baby. Your parents probably don't know whether to love you or to hold back to see you as a new life or as a potential heartbreak. Because, let's be honest, you probably won't survive this. Infant mortality rates in ancient Rome were so high they'd make a modern person's blood run cold. We're talking about a world where up to 30% of children wouldn't live to see their first birthday, and half wouldn't make it to age 10. The air is heavy with this reality. You feel it in the way your family whispers prayers to household gods, and in the quick, practiced way they prepare for a funeral that might come at any moment. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you are and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your first few weeks are a blur of swaddling and silence. There's a ritual called the lifting of the child, where your father decides whether you'll live or be left to die. This practice, known as expositio, was surprisingly common. Historians still argue whether it was a heartless act or a grim necessity for families who couldn't afford another mouth to feed, especially with so many already on the brink. You, however, are a child who was lifted. You're given a name, and now you have a purpose to live. You don't get a birth certificate, of course. Your entry into the world is marked by a festival, a moment of fragile hope. You're named after your father, maybe, or an ancestor, and given a bulla, a small locket meant to ward off evil spirits, which you'll wear until you become an adult. It's a bit like a Roman version of a baby pacifier, but a lot less cute and a lot more serious about the whole evil spirit thing. You learn to walk and talk to navigate the crowded, sometimes chaotic streets of Rome. You're a child of the plebeians, the common folk. Your playground is the street where you dodge carts and the occasional stray dog. The rich kids have tutors and toys, sure, but your toys are whatever you can make, or find a stick becomes a sword. A stone is a chariot wheel. You learn to work with your hands early. Maybe you're helping your father at his workshop, grinding flour at the mill or carrying water from the fountain. You're not being exploited. You're just learning your place. The line between play and labor is so thin, it's practically non-existent. You're expected to contribute, to pull your weight. You're not a child to be coddled. You're a small adult in training a tiny cog in the great machine of Roman society. One of the more peculiar things you learn is about superstition. Your mother teaches you to be wary of the lemures, the restless spirits of the dead. You have a festival, the Lemuria, where you're told to throw black beans over your shoulder and chant to send the spirits away. It's all a bit theatrical, but you do it anyway. Because what if the spirits are real? What if your little brother who didn't survive has come back to haunt the house? This fringe tidbit of Roman life, the blend of daily grime and supernatural fear, is an essential part of your emotional landscape. The world is a place of visible and invisible threats, and you, a small child, have to navigate them all. Life is hard, but not without its moments. You see gladiators parade through the streets, their bronze armor glinting in the sun. You hear stories of the gods of Mars and Jupiter, of Venus and Minerva. You see the great Forum, the bustling markets. You're a part of something big, even if you're a tiny, insignificant piece of it. You learn to read and write, or you don't, depending on your family's social standing. If you're lucky, your parents send you to a ludus literarius, a school where you learn basic arithmetic and the works of Virgil. If you're not, you learn the alphabet from your father's business ledgers, or not at all. You just learn to get by, to survive. Your innocence is fleeting, a luxury for the rich. For you, childhood is a brief, intense apprenticeship for the very real business of staying alive. And as the sun sets over the 7 hills of Rome, you understand that your only job is to be there for the sunrise tomorrow. Your brief Roman existence, so fragile and so full of grime, is a world away from the one you now find yourself in. The air is different here, sharper, colder. You are no longer a child of the marketplace, but a young Spartan, born into a system that has only one goal: to forge you into a soldier. The moment you are born, you are not truly a person, but a potential resource for the state. You're bathed not in water, but in wine to test your resilience, a kind of first very serious sobriety test. If you convulse or seem weak, you're judged as unfit. It's a stark introduction to a world where weakness is not tolerated, and even as a baby, you're already being vetted for future battle. You are no one's child, really. The state is your parent. At the age of 7, your home life ends abruptly. You are taken from your family, your mother, who you likely saw only briefly each day, and your father, a soldier himself, and you're placed into the agog. This is Sparta's brutal state-sponsored training program. Your new home is a barrack, your new family, a pack of boys your own age. There's no soft transition, no gentle goodbyes. You're thrown into a life of communal living where your individuality is stripped away faster than you can say, "Wait, where's my toy sword?" Or it's a bit like a military boarding school, but without the cozy dorms or the decent cafeteria food. Your bed is a pile of reeds that you have to gather yourself, and you're given only a single cloak, regardless of the weather. The physical training is relentless. You're taught to fight, to run, to wrestle. But the education goes beyond just combat. You are deliberately underfed. This isn't just a quirky tidbit to make you skinny for your toga. It's a deliberate tactic to teach you to be resourceful, to steal food without getting caught. If you do get caught, it's not the stealing you're punished for, but the clumsiness of getting caught. The punishment is a public whipping, a harsh lesson in stealth and competence. It's a system that, while harsh, makes a strange kind of sense when you consider its ultimate goal to create a warrior who can live off the land and outsmart their enemy even when starving. Your social life is just as unforgiving. You're taught to endure pain without complaint. The annual festival of Artemis Orthia is a prime example. Historians still argue whether this was a true test of endurance or a symbolic ritual, but the story is the same. You, along with other boys, are whipped at the altar of the goddess, all while trying to steal cheeses. The boy who endures the most without flinching is the hero of the hour. It's a test of stoicism, a public performance of the Spartan ideal. You learn that pain is just a sensation, not a reason to stop. You learn to hide your fear, to swallow your tears, and to prioritize the good of the group above all else. Remember that Roman child who worried about evil spirits and threw beans over their shoulder. That little guy would have absolutely no chance here. Life is structured around obedience, discipline, and communal living. Your friendships are not based on shared interests or inside jokes, but on a shared struggle. Your bonds are forged in hardship and in constant competition. You're not just a student. You're a part of a larger machine. You learn to speak concisely in the famous Laconian style, where every word is a hammer blow of meaning. There's no room for flowery language or personal anecdotes. It's a society that values action over words, strength over art. And while this sounds incredibly boring, it's actually designed to make you into the most feared soldier in the ancient world. You are in essence a weapon in training. Your childhood is a sharpening stone, and you are the blade. You are preparing for a life that will be defined by battle, by honor, and by a loyalty to Sparta that transcends even your own family. You are a child with no home but the barracks, no family but your brothers in arms. You are Spartan. Leaving behind the Spartans' unforgiving barrack life, you're now a child in ancient Egypt, and the world has an entirely new rhythm. Here the air is thick with the scent of papyrus and mud from the Nile. Your childhood is not defined by endless combat training or a brutal state, but by the ebb and flow of a great river that dictates everything. You are one of the lucky ones. You have survived infancy, a feat in itself. Unlike the grim lottery of Rome, where a third of your peers were lost, Egypt's infant mortality, while still high, was generally a bit more forgiving. Still, you understand from a very young age that the world is a dangerous place, filled with unseen forces, and you learn to navigate them with a mix of reverence and caution. You're a child of a farming family, and your life is tied to the annual flooding of the Nile. When the river rises, it brings with it fertile silt, a gift from the gods. You spend your days playing in the fields, but your play has a purpose. You learn to recognize different plants, to know when to plant seeds and how to help your family with the harvest. This practical education is your school. You might not be learning to read hieroglyphs, a luxury reserved for scribes and priests, but you are learning the most important lesson of all, how to survive and prosper in your environment. You learn that your family is a team, and everyone, even a child, has a role to play. Your life is full of superstitions. Unlike the ghostly fears of Rome, your fears are more tangible. You are taught to be wary of the Nile's dangers, the crocodiles and hippos that lurk just beneath the surface. You wear a small amulet around your neck, a charm in the shape of a scarab beetle, or the eye of Horus, to ward off these dangers and to protect you from the malevolent spirits. This fringe tidbit of daily life, the constant reliance on charms and amulets, shows a culture that believed in actively protecting themselves from a world teeming with supernatural threats and very real predators. Historians still argue whether these amulets were seen as true magical protection or simply as a comforting tradition, a way to feel some control in a world where so much was left to chance. For most children, life is simple and predictable. You play with toys made of wood or clay, small animals, spinning tops, maybe even a ball. Your childhood is a time of learning, not just about farming, but about your place in the universe. You are taught about the gods, about Ra, the sun, God who rides his boat across the sky, and Osiris, the god of the afterlife. You learn the myths and legends that explain your world, from the rising of the sun to the flooding of the Nile. It's a kind of cosmic education that connects your daily toil to the grand order of the universe. However, your path is not set in stone. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is the social mobility that was possible, if rare. Unlike the rigid caste system of other cultures, a particularly bright child could be noticed by a scribe or a priest and taken on as an apprentice. It's a long shot, of course, a bit like winning a lottery you didn't even know you'd entered. But it's a hope that lives within you, a silent promise that hard work and a keen mind could lead to a life beyond the fields, maybe even to the dizzying heights of the pharaoh's court. You might even have a little fun along the way, learning to play music or helping with the preparation of elaborate feast for a festival. Just don't let a crocodile get your favorite wooden doll. That would be a bad day. Your time as a Nileside farmer's child, with its predictable cycles of flood and harvest, has faded. Now you're standing in the muddy, rutted lanes of a medieval village. The air is heavy with the smell of wood smoke, livestock, and unwashed humanity. You are a serf, and your childhood is not your own. Your destiny was decided the moment you were born, not by a lottery of survival or the whim of a pharaoh, but by the land you were born on. You are tied to it, as surely as the oxen are tied to the plow. Your days begin and end with the sun, and your life is a ceaseless cycle of labor. You are not a student in a grand Roman school or a warrior in training. You are a small, tired body learning the hard lessons of agriculture. You learn to plant grain to harvest it with a simple sickle and to mend fences with calloused hands. Your playground is the field, and your games are practical lessons in survival. You might pretend to be a knight, but the reality is you'll spend your life feeding the knights and the lords who live in the manor house on the hill. This is the most mainstream historical fact of your existence. The vast majority of people in the Middle Ages were not knights, ladies, or kings, but serfs. You learn early on what hunger feels like. The harvest belongs to the Lord, and you and your family are given only a small portion to survive on. A poor harvest means a lean winter, and a truly bad one means starvation. The open scholarly debate on this is whether the serf's life was a form of slavery or a more complex, albeit harsh, feudal contract. Regardless of the academic label for you, it feels like an endless grind. There's a certain grim security in it, though. The Lord, in theory, protects you from outside threats, but he also owns your labor. It's a bargain that feels less and less like a good deal with every sore muscle and empty stomach. Your childhood is not all gloom and toil, though. There is a sense of community, a village that works and struggles together. You learn the stories of saints and demons from the local priest, who often serves as the only source of news and education. You participate in the yearly festivals, the few brief moments of celebration that break the monotony of your life. A fringe tidbit of this time is the prevalence of folk beliefs and magic. Despite the church's influence, you learn from your grandmother how to use herbs for remedies and how to leave offerings for the spirits of the forest to ensure a good crop. You remember that Roman child's fear of the lemures. Yours is a more grounded, earthy fear of hungry spirits and malicious fairies creatures that could curdle your milk or make your crops fail. Your clothes are simple homespun wool, and your shoes, if you have them, are made of leather. There are no toys, at least not in the modern sense. A stick and a stone are enough to create a world of imagination, but that world is always overshadowed by the very real demands of your daily life. You're taught to be humble, to know your place, and to never ever question the Lord's authority. Your childhood is a preparation for a life that will look exactly the same as your parents' a life of quiet desperation and endless toil, a life spent serving a master you may only see a few times a year. And as the sun sets, casting long shadows over the fields you've been working since dawn, you know that tomorrow will be exactly the same. The muddy fields of a medieval serf's life have dissolved, replaced by the salty spray of the sea and the cold bite of a northern wind. You are a child of the Viking age, and your home is not a quiet village, but a longhouse filled with the smells of wood smoke and roasting meat, a place where the sound of the loom is often interrupted by the clanging of a blacksmith's hammer. Your childhood is a stark contrast to the static life of the serf. Here you learn to adapt, to be resilient, and to be ready for anything. Your life is defined by the concepts of family honor and self-sufficiency. You are not just a child, you are a future member of a clan, and your actions reflect on everyone in your household. You learn from a very young age to contribute. Girls learn to spin wool, weave cloth, and preserve food. Boys are taught to handle tools, mend fishing nets, and train with weapons. This hands-on education is the mainstream historical fact of your life. There was no separate concept of childhood as a period of play and leisure. You were a small apprentice learning the skills you would need to survive in a harsh and unforgiving world. Your education is practical, not academic. You learn to navigate by the stars and the sun, to read the signs of the weather, and to understand the behavior of animals. A fringe tidbit of your life is the importance of storytelling. On long winter nights, you gather around the fire and listen to the saga's epic poems about gods like Odin and Thor and heroes like Sigurd. These stories are not just entertainment. They are your history lessons, your moral compass, and your guide to the Viking code of honor. You learn about bravery, loyalty, and the importance of a good reputation, a concept called fame that was more important than gold. These sagas are a bit like ancient self-help books, teaching you how to be a person of value in your society. You're a child who has to learn to defend yourself. Your community is constantly at risk from rival clans or foreign enemies. You might play with a wooden sword, but you understand that one day that sword will be made of iron. You are taught to be fearless, to face danger head-on. There is a saying you learn early on: a man must be a man even in the face of death. The open scholarly debate among historians is whether the Vikings were primarily violent raiders or complex traders and farmers. For you, a child, the reality is a mix of both. You might see your father leave on a longship for a raid one year and return with exotic silks and silver the next. You learn to fear the unknown, but also to embrace the adventure it brings. Life isn't just about training for battle. There's a playful side, too. You and your friends might have races on skis or play games of chance with carved wooden tokens. You might even join in on the communal feasts where you get to eat your fill and listen to the adults boast about their exploits. This is a childhood shaped by the rhythm of the seasons and the demands of a life lived on the edge. You are a child who learns to be a warrior, a farmer, and a storyteller all at once. Your world is one of both quiet strength and sudden violence, and you are being molded to be a master of both. The fierce world of Viking raids and sagas has faded, and you find yourself in the high, thin air of the Andes, a child of the Inca Empire. The land stretches out beneath you in a terraced mosaic of green and gold, and the air is alive with the hum of activity. Here your childhood is not about brute strength or self-sufficiency in the Viking sense, but about service and a deep, all-encompassing sense of order. You are a part of a vast, centralized society, and your life is determined by your destiny, which is in the hands of the Sapa Inca, the divine ruler. For most of you, your life is a structured path of learning. As soon as you are old enough to follow simple commands, you are put to work. You learn to tend the fields carefully, cultivating crops like maize and potatoes on the steep terraces. You learn to herd llamas and alpacas, animals so vital to your culture that they provide everything from wool for your clothes to fuel for your fires. This practical education, a mainstream historical fact, is the cornerstone of your childhood. Your entire society is built on the principle of mita, a system of public service where everyone contributes to the good of the empire. You are taught that your labor, whether in the fields or on the grand roads that connect the empire, is a sacred duty. But for a very select few, your childhood takes a terrifying, almost surreal turn. You are chosen for a sacred honor, a path that will lead not to a long life of service, but to a ritual sacrifice. This fringe tidbit is a horrifying reality. These children, known as Capacocha, were chosen for their beauty purity or high social standing. You, if you were one of them, would be treated like a living god, feasting on the best foods and wearing the finest clothing. You would be a symbol of the Inca's devotion, a perfect offering to appease the gods and ensure the prosperity of the empire. Historians still argue whether these children were willing participants or terrified victims, but from your perspective, the process is shrouded in a solemn kind of dread. You are a child who is not growing up, but being prepared for a divine purpose. The education of an Incan child is strict. You are taught about the gods, particularly Inti, the sun god, and Mama Quilla, the moon goddess. You learn the complex calendar system, which is based on astronomical observations. You learn to weave intricate patterns into cloth, a skill that is both an art form and a way of communicating. You learn to use quipu, a system of knotted cords used for record keeping and communication. It's a bit like an ancient spreadsheet, except instead of numbers, you're using knots. This is the practical side of your childhood, the part that prepares you for a life of purpose. You are learning to be a productive member of a vast, interconnected society, one where everything is organized and every person has a specific role. Your life is defined by a sense of community. The concept of the individual is less important than the concept of the group. You are raised to trust the system, to obey the local leaders, and to work for the good of the Sapa Inca. While the thought of being chosen for sacrifice is horrifying for most life, is a predictable cycle of work, communal gatherings, and learning. You'll spend your days with other children, playing games that mimic the work of your elders, and learning the songs and stories of your people. Your world is one of vibrant colors, magnificent stonework, and a deep-seated belief that your place is to serve. And as you tend to the crops, you hope that your service is enough to keep the gods happy and the harvest plentiful. The structured, high-altitude world of the Inca has given way to the dense, humid jungle of the Aztec Empire. Here your childhood is a blend of intense education, religious duty, and a constant awareness of the brutality that underpins your society. You are not just a child of a family. You are a child of the state, and your purpose is to contribute to a world constantly balancing on the edge of cosmic destruction. From the moment you are old enough to understand, you are immersed in a culture obsessed with warfare and ritual. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is that every child, regardless of social class, attended school. For boys, this was either the Telpachkali, a school for commoners focused on military training and practical skills, or the Kalmakak, for the noble class, where you would study religion, history, and administration. For girls, education was centered around the home, where you learned to weave, cook, and care for the family, with a strong emphasis on religious duties. This was not a choice, it was mandatory. The state required everyone to be a functional part of the whole, a cog in the great machine of the empire. Your days are highly structured. You rise with the sun, eat a simple meal of maize porridge, and begin your lessons. In the Telpokali, you learn to handle a makwahwitl, a wooden sword with obsidian blades, and to use a sling and a bow. Your physical training is intense, designed to prepare you for the inevitable wars that will come. You're taught the importance of capturing a live enemy soldier as this is the highest honor and the most valuable offering for the gods. You're a child, but you're being trained for a life where you will be an integral part of a brutal ongoing conflict. A fringe tidbit of your life is the daily practice of bloodletting. You are taught to prick your ear or tongue to offer a small amount of your own blood to the gods. This act of self-sacrifice is not seen as morbid or strange. It's a normal, everyday part of your religious devotion. The belief is that the gods, particularly the sun god Huitzilopochtli, require human blood to continue their cosmic struggle against darkness. This isn't just a grim ceremony. It's a profound, deeply personal act that connects you directly to the fate of the universe. It's a bit different from the Roman kids' ritual of throwing beans, that's for sure. Historians still argue whether the Aztec Empire was a truly brutal, militaristic state or a complex society misunderstood by European chroniclers. For you, the truth is a mix of both. Your world is one of vibrant marketplaces, complex calendars, and intricate poetry, but it is all overshadowed by the constant demands of the gods. You are taught that your life and the life of everyone around you is a sacrifice in some form, either through labor battle or ritual. You understand that your purpose is to serve the gods and to ensure that the sun continues to rise. Your childhood is not a time of innocence, but a disciplined, rigorous apprenticeship in a world where everything, even a simple life, is a debt owed to the divine. And you are taught that the best way to live is to be ready to pay that debt at a moment's notice. The ceremonial world of the Aztecs, with its rituals and strict educational paths, gives way to a life of refined courtliness and scholarly pursuits. You are a child in the Tang dynasty of China, a time often called a golden age. The air is no longer humid and heavy with the scent of blood and sacrifice, but instead carries the delicate fragrance of tea, and the sound of calligraphy brushes on rice paper. Your childhood is one of discipline, respect for elders, and a rigid social structure, a far cry from the brutal, militaristic upbringings you've known. For you, a child of a prosperous family, your education is paramount. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is the civil service examination system. This was the primary way to gain a government position, and your entire childhood is a preparation for it. From a young age, you are expected to memorize thousands of characters, to study the Confucian classics, and to master poetry and prose. This is not just a school, it is your destiny. The pressure is immense. You are taught that with enough hard work and dedication, you can rise through the ranks, bringing honor and prestige to your family. It's a meritocracy, but one with incredibly high stakes. The hours are long, and the competition is fierce. If you are a girl in a noble family, your education is different, but no less rigorous. You learn to manage a household, to play the guqin, a zither-like instrument, and to paint and write poetry. You are being groomed for a marriage that will strengthen your family's social standing. Your world is smaller, more confined, but filled with its own unique beauty and a quiet strength. The open scholarly debate here is whether this system, which offered a path for social mobility for men, was a truly progressive system for its time, or simply a new form of class oppression. For you, the child, it's just the way things are. You learn to accept your role and to excel within its limitations. However, if you are a child of a farming family, your life is vastly different. The fields are your classroom, and your lessons are in planting rice and tending to silkworms. You are a crucial part of the family unit, expected to contribute from the moment you can walk. There is no time for poetry or the study of Confucius. Your life is a cycle of planting, harvesting, and praying for good weather. A fringe tidbit of your life, though, is the presence of a flourishing popular culture. Despite the hard work you get to witness traveling storytellers, shadow puppet shows, and acrobats at local festivals, it's a brief, wonderful escape from the daily toil, a taste of the vibrant world beyond your village. Your childhood is defined by a sense of order and hierarchy. You are taught to respect your elders and to know your place in the family and in society. Your life is not about individual glory, but about collective harmony. The world is a place of grand canals, bustling marketplaces, and vibrant art, and you are a small piece of it, whether you are studying for a high-stakes exam or working in a field. You are learning that in the Tang dynasty, success is not a matter of luck or brute force, but of patience, diligence, and a quiet, unyielding respect for the traditions that hold everything together. The scholarly life of Tang dynasty China has faded, replaced by the sun-drenched marble and olive groves of ancient Greece. Your world is one of stark contrasts where the concept of childhood depends entirely on whether you're a boy or a girl and whether you live in a city-state like Athens or another. For you, a boy in Athens, your life is a mix of rigorous study and physical training, all in preparation to become a good citizen. From a young age, you are taught to be part of the community. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is that boys at the age of 7 are sent to school. This is a far cry from the life of a serf or a Viking child. You learn to read and write, to study Homer, and to play the lyre. This education, called paideia, is not just about academics. It's about molding you into a well-rounded individual, a man who is both physically fit and intellectually sharp. Your days are structured around these pursuits, and your goal is to be a master of both rhetoric and wrestling a mind that is as quick as your body is strong. But your life as a boy is not all about school. You also spend time in the gymnasium, a public space where you exercise, wrestle, and socialize. This is a place where you're not just training your body, but also learning about the world through conversation with older men. This is a fringe tidbit of your life, the way social and educational spaces were so intertwined. There's a playful but serious side to it all. You might be playing a game of ball, but you're also learning about strategy, teamwork, and competition. Your heroes are not kings or warriors, but the great philosophers and athletes. For girls in Athens, the story is entirely different. Your world is centered around the home. You don't go to school. Instead, you are taught by your mother how to manage the household, how to spin wool, and how to weave cloth. Your education is practical, not philosophical. You are being prepared for one-purpose marriage. Your life is confined to the domestic sphere, and your public presence is limited. The open scholarly debate here is whether Athenian women were truly oppressed, or if their domestic roles simply provided them with a different kind of power and influence. For you, a child in this world, the distinction is clear. Your brother's life is about the city. Your life is about the family. Your childhood is a time of learning your place. You are taught about the gods, about Zeus and Athena, and about the myths that explain the world. You attend festivals and religious ceremonies, which are some of the few times you get to interact with the wider community. But there is a constant awareness of the future. For boys, your childhood is a countdown to the time when you will serve in the military and become a full citizen. For girls, it's a countdown to the day you will be married and move to a new home. You are a child, but you are also a work in progress, being molded by your society to fit a specific predetermined role. The philosophical debates and physical training of ancient Greece have faded, and you find yourself in the dense jungles and vibrant city-states of the Mayan civilization. Your childhood here is not about individual accomplishment in the Greek sense, but about a deep sacred connection to the cosmos and the rhythms of time. The air is thick with the scent of tropical flowers and the sound of birds, and your life is guided by the most complex calendar system in the ancient world. For you, a Mayan child, your education is both practical and spiritual. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is the deep-seated importance of astronomy and mathematics. From a very young age, you are taught about the cycles of the sun, moon, and planets. You learn to understand the long-count calendar, a system so intricate it could track time for thousands of years. It's a bit like being a child astronomer, constantly looking up at the night sky and seeing not just stars, but a cosmic clock that tells you when to plant, when to harvest, and when to hold ceremonies. Your daily life is a blend of work and ritual. The boys are taught to hunt and to farm, and you learn how to cultivate the land in a way that is sustainable and respectful of the jungle. Girls learn to prepare food, to weave, and to make pottery. A fringe tidbit of your life is the significance of the ball game, pits. This is not just a sport. It is a sacred ritual. You might play it with a solid rubber ball, but the stakes are high, sometimes even life and death, and the game is seen as a way of reenacting the myths of the gods. You learn that your actions, even in a game, have cosmic significance. It's a lot more serious than playing Roman ball with a simple stick and a stone. The open scholarly debate surrounding the Maya is whether their society was primarily a theocracy ruled by priests or a collection of independent city-states constantly at war with each other. For you, the child, the reality is a mix of both. You might witness a grand procession to a temple one day and hear about a skirmish with a neighboring city-state the next. Your life is guided by the priests who interpret the sacred calendar and tell you what the gods require. You are taught that your purpose is to ensure the continued harmony of the cosmos, to keep the sun on its path, and to ensure the rains come at the right time. Your childhood is a time of learning your place within this grand cosmic order. You are not an individual on a path to glory, but a tiny piece of a complex and beautiful tapestry. You play with clay figures and wooden toys, but these objects are often imbued with religious significance. You learn the stories of the hero twins and their journey to the underworld, stories that teach you about courage and the cyclical nature of life. You are a child who understands that the world is a fragile place, held together by the careful balance of ritual farming and a deep reverence for the past. And as you watch the sun set over the great pyramids of the city, you are filled with a sense of purpose that comes from knowing you are part of something much, much bigger than yourself. The cosmic and ritualistic world of the Maya has given way to the rigid, honorable society of feudal Japan. The air is now crisp and clean, and your world is defined by a strict hierarchy and the looming shadow of the sword. Here your childhood is not about pleasing the gods or winning cosmic games, but about knowing your place and upholding the honor of your family and lord. If you are a boy, your life is an apprenticeship in the art of war. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is the path of the samurai. While not all boys become samurai, the samurai code, Bushido, influences everyone. From a young age, you are taught discipline and self-control. Your training is rigorous and begins early. You might start with a wooden sword, practicing forms in the quiet of a garden, but you know that one day your blade will be made of steel. Your education isn't just about fighting. It's about loyalty duty and a deep reverence for your ancestors. You learn to live a life of frugality and simplicity, to find strength not just in your body, but in your mind. For girls, your education is centered around the home. You learn to manage a household, to spin silk, and to practice calligraphy. But unlike the Athenian girl, your training also includes a certain preparedness for violence. You might be taught how to use a tanto so, a small dagger for self-defense. This fringe tidbit of your life highlights the ever-present danger of the time. Even in the home, you are a part of the samurai class, and your duty is to protect your family and your honor if necessary. You are a child who is not just learning domestic skills, but also the grim realities of a world where honor is more important than life itself. The open, scholarly debate surrounding this period is whether the samurai were truly the noble stoic warriors of legend, or if they were often brutal and self-serving. For you, the child, the reality is a mix of both. You might see your father perform a graceful tea ceremony one day and witness him draw his sword to settle a dispute the next. Your life is a constant dance between quiet contemplation and the potential for explosive violence. You learn to read the subtle cues of social interaction, to bow at the right moment, and to use the correct honorifics, as a mistake could bring shame not just upon you, but upon your entire family. If you are a child of a peasant family, your life is vastly different. There is no training with swords, but rather a life of back-breaking work in the rice paddies. Your childhood is a preparation for a life of serving your Lord, paying taxes, and praying for a good harvest. Your world is smaller, more confined to your village, but it is also a world of festivals, local folklore, and the simple rhythm of the seasons. You learn early on that your existence is dependent on the goodwill of your Lord and the whims of nature. Whether you are a samurai's child or a peasant's child, your life is defined by a strict code of conduct and an unwavering sense of duty, a sense that your life is not truly your own, but a piece of a much larger, more rigid social puzzle. The rigid, honorable world of feudal Japan has been washed away by a cold northern wind, and you find yourself in the tribal wildlands of the ancient Celts. Here your childhood is not about a single path or a strict code, but about a deep connection to nature, a complex tribal law, and the secrets of the ancient gods. The air is damp with mist, and the forests are your school, your playground, and your protector. Your education as a Celtic child is both practical and philosophical. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is the importance of oral tradition. There is no writing system for the stories and laws of your people. Instead, you learn everything by heart. Your elders and the bards, the poets and storytellers of the tribe are your teachers. You learn the myths of gods like Lu and Brigid, and the epic tales of heroes like Ku Chulainn. This is a childhood shaped by a collective memory, a history passed down from one generation to the next, a vast web of stories that explains your world and your place in it. For boys, your path might lead to becoming a warrior. You are taught to be fearless in combat, to use a sword, and to fight with honor. You also learn the importance of tribal law, a system so complex it requires years of memorization. This is not a written law, but one of oaths and honor, a system that values the word of a man above all else. This fringe tidbit of your life, the reliance on verbal agreements and the absence of written legal codes, shows a culture that valued trust and personal integrity above all else. You learn early on that your reputation is your most valuable possession. If you are chosen for a higher calling, you might become a druid, a priest and scholar of your people. This is a path of intense study, where you spend years in secluded groves learning about philosophy, astronomy, and herbal medicine. The open, scholarly debate surrounding the Druids is whether they were truly the spiritual leaders of the people, or if they were also political figures with immense power. For you, a child on this path, they are simply your teachers, the keepers of the sacred knowledge that holds your society together. Your childhood is one of silent contemplation and a deep reverence for the natural world, which you learn to read like an open book. For girls, your education is no less rigorous. You learn to forage for food, to use herbs for medicine, and to weave intricate patterns into cloth. You are taught about the power of the land and the spirits that inhabit it. You might even learn to fight, as Celtic women were known to be fierce warriors. Remember the Aztec girls who were confined to the home. That's not your world. You are a child who is free to roam the land, to explore the forests, and to find your own place in the tribal structure. Your childhood is a preparation for a life that is both wild and structured, a life where you are a part of a tribe that values honor, storytelling, and a deep mystical connection to the earth. The wild and mystical world of the Celts has vanished, replaced by the organized, bustling streets of the Indus Valley civilization. Here in one of the earliest urban societies, your childhood is a mystery. The air is warm and dusty, carrying the scent of clay and spices from the thriving markets. You are a child in a world without kings, without great monuments, and without a written history that we can read. This is a childhood defined by what we do not know. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is that you live in a meticulously planned city, a place like Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa. Unlike the chaos of a medieval village or a Roman street, your city is laid out in a grid. The houses are made of baked brick, and they have something that is almost unheard of in the ancient world: private bathrooms. You have a complex drainage system that carries waste away from your home and out of the city. This level of urban planning is a testament to the sophistication of your society, a society that you, as a child, simply take for granted. It's just how the world works for you. But what do you do all day? This is where the mystery comes in. We have no written records that we can decipher, so we have to rely on archaeology. From the artifacts, we know a few things. A fringe tidbit of your life is the toys you play with. Archaeologists have found small clay carts, tiny whistles, and miniature animals. So we know you had a childhood full of play, a lot, like children anywhere else. You probably had a simple ball made of clay or a doll fashioned from wood. Your games would have taken place in the streets or inside the courtyards of your home, and they would have mimicked the lives of the adults around you. The open, scholarly debate surrounding the Indus Valley civilization is what caused its mysterious decline. Did a change in the river's course lead to their downfall? Was it an invasion or a slow internal collapse? For you, the child, you are a part of a flourishing society. You learn from your parents not in a formal school, but through hands-on experience. You might be learning to make pottery, to weave cloth, or to trade goods in the marketplace. Your world is one of commerce and community, of orderly streets and a peaceful, prosperous life. Your childhood is a preparation for a life that for now is stable and predictable. You are a child in a civilization that seems to have valued cleanliness and order above all else. Your society is peaceful, as there is very little evidence of weapons or fortifications. You don't have a king to bow to or a priest to offer blood to. You just have your family and your community. This is a childhood that is in many ways an enigma. We see the toys you played with, the houses you lived in, and the streets you walked on, but we can't hear your laughter or your fears. You are a child of a silent, yet undeniably advanced world. The orderly yet mysterious streets of the Indus Valley have dissolved into a vast, untamed landscape of the Paleolithic era. The air is now sharp with the smell of pine and cold stone, and your childhood is a constant dance with nature itself. You are a child of a hunter-gatherer society, and your world is one of movement, survival, and a profound understanding of the natural world. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is that there is no fixed home. You are a part of a small nomadic band, and your life is a journey from one food source to the next. Your days are dictated by the seasons and the migration of animals. You, a child, are expected to contribute from a very young age. You learn to forage for berries and roots, to identify which plants are safe to eat and which will make you sick. This is not a choice, it is a necessity. Your childhood is a masterclass in survival, and your teachers are the adults of your tribe and the world around you. Your education is practical and hands-on. Boys learn to track animals, to make simple tools from stone, and to hunt with spears. Girls learn to prepare hides for clothing, to care for the young, and to manage the fire, which is the heart of your camp. A fringe tidbit of your life is the importance of art. You might spend hours in a cave watching the adults paint images of animals and people on the walls. These paintings, which we call cave art, are not just decorations. They are a way of telling stories, of communicating with the spirits of the animals you hunt, and of passing on knowledge. You learn that your world is not just a place to survive, but a place of deep spiritual significance. The open scholarly debate surrounding the Paleolithic era is whether these hunter-gatherer societies were truly egalitarian or if they had some form of social hierarchy. For you, the child, you know that everyone has a role and everyone is valued. Your life is a collective effort. The food you find is shared. The shelter you build is for everyone. And the stories you tell are for the benefit of the whole tribe. There are no kings, no lords, and no social classes. There is only your tribe and the vast, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying world you live in. Your childhood is not about school or religion in the way we understand it. It is a time of endless learning, a time when every moment is a lesson in survival. You learn to make a sling to carry your younger sibling, to chip a stone, to make a sharp edge, and to start a fire from a simple bow drill. Your world is one of constant motion, of living in the moment, and of understanding that your life and the life of your tribe is entirely dependent on your ability to work together and to respect the land you live on. The nomadic wildlife of the Paleolithic era has given way to the grimy, bustling cityscape of the early Industrial Revolution. The air is no longer clean with the scent of pine, but thick with the soot of coal and the stench of unwashed bodies. You are a child in a time of incredible change. But for you, that change means a new and terrifying form of labor. Your childhood is no longer about survival in nature, but survival in the factory. The most mainstream historical fact of your life is child labor. As soon as you are old enough to stand and work, you are sent to the factory or the mine. The work is relentless and brutal. You are an apprentice in a world of machines, and your hours are incredibly long, sometimes up to 14 or 16 hours a day. There are no breaks for school or for play. Your only purpose is to work to keep the machines running and to earn a meager wage that is barely enough to keep your family from starving. It is a new form of serfdom where you are tied not to the land, but to the machine. A fringe tidbit of your life is the dangers you face every day. You might be a scavenger, a child who crawls under the weaving looms to pick up loose cotton. The machines are loud and fast, and you risk getting your hair or a limb caught in the spinning cogs. The air is so thick with lint that you can barely breathe, and you are constantly coughing up dust. If you work in a mine, you spend your days in pitch-black tunnels, pulling carts of coal through narrow passages that are too small for an adult. The dangers are constant, from collapsing tunnels to toxic gas. Remember the Aztec child's fear of cosmic doom. Yours is a more grounded fear of a limb being crushed or a lung being filled with dust. The open scholarly debate here is whether the Industrial Revolution, with all its horrors, ultimately led to a better life for humanity. For you, the child, the answer is clear. Your childhood is one of suffering. You have no rights, no protection from the state. You are a commodity, a small body, to be exploited for the sake of profit. Your life is an endless cycle of work exhaustion and the quiet despair of a future that promises only more of the same. There are no holidays, no festivals, no moments of escape like the Celts had in their wild forests. There is only the factory whistle, which signals the beginning of your day and the end of your night. Your childhood is a stark reminder of the cost of progress. It is a time when the innocence and playfulness we associate with youth were stripped away, replaced by the grim realities of industrial capitalism. You are a child of a new machine-driven world, and you are learning that in this world some people are valued not for their humanity, but for the labor they can provide. And as you trudge home through the smoky streets, you are already a little old man with the weight of the world on your small shoulders. Sweet dreams.